Well, thanks for staying with us on the program this morning. As earlier said before the break, our next focus is on Delta State's investment drive. I have with me in the studio the Honorable Commissioner for Works Rural and the Public Information Officer of the state. You might like to call him the image maker of Delta State, Honorable Charles Aniagwu. Good morning, Honorable, and welcome to the program.
Good morning. It's nice to be here. Good morning, Nigerians, and let me appreciate ADBN for what you're doing. Even if you're supposed to be one of the new kids on the block, you are really doing what adults do.
We appreciate the compliments. Now, before I talk about the good work that the Delta State government is doing, I'd like to touch on one that affects senior citizens in Delta, particularly when the news broke that the governor had approved 10 billion naira to clear a backlog of pension arrears. It was met with mixed reactions. Some persons insinuated that why would the debt go that high? Others lauded the magnanimity of the governor in saying that he's attending to senior citizens. What informed this decision and why is it coming now?
Well, thank you very much. Your question is coming from two different planks as to why the debt in the first place, and then secondly, how the governor was able to take that decision. Let me start from why he took that decision. The governor, since he came in, felt that there was a need to carry every debt along and to address the issues of the welfare of the people. And so he even first of all started with the civil servants, those who are serving. He cleared their promotion arrears, and you know promotion arrears usually accrue when you are supposed to be promoted possibly in June, and after they are promoted you in June or they did not promote you on time, at the end of the day, by the time they promote you, that promotion may be backdated to that June. And so even if it was done in December or in January, it means that there is an arrears to be paid to you from that period where you are supposed to be promoted up to the time that we are not eventually promoted, or if you were promoted in January and it didn't start kicking in. Anytime they have to pay, the calculation must start from that moment when you are promoted, because every promotion ordinarily comes with some form of increment in wages. So he cleared that. Having cleared that, he has also ensured that even when the state government, when the federal government came up with the new minimum wage, we are not paying 70, we are paying 77,500. 7,500 above what the federal government recommended. Why am I going through that route? I'm letting you know the kind of governor we have, who is worker friendly. Now to the question you asked, the governor also did that in line with that being friendly and believing that doing so will also reflect our economy. And so now let me come to how it accrued. Delta State under the Udua administration saw the need, following the passage of the contributory pension law, saw the need to migrate the state into the contributory pension scheme. And that meant that you needed to exit from the old pension scheme where the worker doesn't contribute, the state doesn't contribute, but once you exit from the service, the state or the federal government begins to pay you a pension till death. But with the contributory pension, it meant that the state has a percentage that it must contribute. The individual, of course, also has a percentage that you contribute, which will be managed by the pension fund, the administrators, and all the pension fund managers. And so when those managers manage these funds, when you exit, it is from there now you now begin to draw your pension. But when we migrated, don't forget, there are workers who have worked for 25 years, some 30 years, some 28 years. What the government then did was good, but ordinarily, some persons felt that they should have allowed those who were very close to their point of exit to exit with the old pension scheme. But they migrated everybody. What it meant is that the 25 years you have worked where you did not contribute and the state did not contribute, they needed to do some calculation on that for that 25 years, and the state have to now put in money as if you have started contributing from the day you were employed. And that's what they call accrued rights. These accrued rights over time, at the time we now migrated as at that time, led to accumulation of several billions. And the money was that humongous that it was not something that you needed to offset at once. And don't forget that every other month, individuals retire and, of course, now exit from the service and go into the retirement platform. So over time, our state government came up with the principle of trying to see how we can more like bring down that debt burden by paying in 500 million every month. Every month we pay 500 million to be able to service that one so that we can bring it down. At the same time, we also pay another 500 million as our contribution, counterpart contribution for the workers and the civil servants who are in service as part of our own contributory part of that scheme. in addition to another 400 million for those who belong to the old pension scheme where we exited from, which meant that every month the Delta State government pays as much as 1.4 billion naira to service loan alone. Now, in the last 28 months, in the last 7 months, sorry, of the Oborowori administration, he has paid as much as over 35 billion for just pensions funds alone, servicing and making sure that everything is in good shape. So he is not owing, he has been up to date, but because of all those old order, it meant when a worker now immediately exit, you are not able to just give him his gratuity or whatever, that is some of his entitlements. Even if it's not called gratuity at the moment, some of the entitlements that he needed to have for him to easily go into the society, moving away from being a civil servant
into retirement.
Into retirement. Now, the governor have been discussing with the our own board, the Bureau of State Pension, in addition to also listening to the pensioners. And he saw that the 500 million which we are paying monthly is not moving with the kind of speed that he anticipates. And the reason why that 500 million was not reducing it the way it should is because every other month, like I said earlier, individuals still retire and also go into that particular retirement platform. So the governor now, by himself, not being advised by anybody, not being pushed by anybody, saw the need to say, no, we have said as a state that we are solvent. We also want to be able to lead a solvent population. He now invited them yesterday, and every one of us was shocked when he made that announcement that he's going to release immediately 10 billion naira to be able to tackle that issue. Don't also forget, a day before, which is day before yesterday, as part of that idea of making the people to become solvent, the governor brought in 10,000 widows, well screened. These are not widows who, unfortunately, their husband may have died and left a C class for them, or widows who are in the civil service, or widows who have a big shop, because there are some widows that may be richer than those who even have a husband. But we now did a whole lot of profiling to see those who belong to what you may call the vulnerable group. And 10,000 of them were profiled. And the governor said every month that we are going to be paying them 15,000 naira.
Now, these plans are so brilliant, Commissioner. Listening to you, I just have two questions before we come to the reason why you're here.
Yeah.
In terms of ensuring accountability,
yeah.
Which ministry is supervising the release of these funds? And what's the sustainability plan in terms of revenue to debt servicing ratio of the state?
Thank you very much. In terms of who is supervising, in the case of the issue of the pension, we have a pension bureau. That bureau supervises it, so it's not a question of anybody going to mismanage the funds. The rights as to what anybody is entitled to is well computed, and if you are not paid your money, you know where to go to. We have, of course, a whistleblowing line, but we also believe in the integrity of the persons who are running that particular bureau. Is being headed by a retired permanent secretary, who, of course, is also part of those who have retired, and he did very well in the civil service. On account of his performance as a permanent secretary, the governor made him to become the head of that pension bureau. Now, where I was driving to before also coming back to this, your last question, on the issue of what we are doing for the widows and our ability to want to reflate our economy by making our people to also become solvent. Not the question of the state becoming solvent and then the people becoming poorer. The governor, in announcing and making sure that that 15,000 naira is being paid, said no, that we are going to start from 3 months behind, that's backwards. And now we now paid 45,000 naira to each of those 10,000 widows for the past 3 months. But you know the icing on the cake? The governor also announced that every one of these 10,000 will benefit from our contributory, from our health insurance scheme, sponsored solely by the state government. For these 10,000 persons, they can go to any of our accredited hospitals, take treatment. Of course, you know that these are individuals who are classified as being vulnerable. So they can go into the hospital anytime, any day, and the government pays for it. So those are some of the things that the governor is doing, so that this 10,000 will not be for them to go and begin to buy drugs, but for them to begin to, even if it's akara, being cake or whatever that you can. And so you know what that means. To be releasing 150 million for these 10,000 persons every month. You know what that meant in the economy. Releasing 450 to take care of the 3 months behind. That you also know what that meant. Now, coming to the issue of the management of this particular one. This one is being managed by the Ministry of, supervised by the Ministry of Women Affairs. We also have an EA in charge of our own program that deals with issue of humanitarian issues, and so they manage the issues of the widows. But you know the beautiful thing about it, we're not giving them cash. We have opened an account for each of these 10,000 women. We have been able to give them their ATM cards so that they can even go to that nearby.
So there's a concrete social register.
Yeah, they can go to that nearby POS. They don't need to go and travel and spend 10,000 to go and collect 15,000. The 15,000 is right there in their backyard, because all you need to do with the ATM, the bank accounts will open for all of them. Number one, it brings about transparency. So there's not like anybody giving you money and say, give me back 5,000, or I have helped you, give me 2,000. The 15,000 must hit your account. And just as the governor was making that pronouncement, because the governor has already released the fund to the managers of that scheme, as the governor was right there on the podium, the people were shouting, I have seen my alert, I have seen my alert. The governor did not even understand what was happening. He thought that people were making noise. And he said the people were telling them, calm down, calm down. The people couldn't keep quiet because somebody who is sitting and governor is talking. And you know the issue of trust deficit between usually government and the people. And so for governor to be speaking on the podium and the people right there were receiving their alert, so the whole hall went up in some form of ecstasy and euphoria. And so we now have to announce the governor, no, leave them. The ADC have to go and whisper to the governor, Your Excellency, they are saying that they are already receiving their alert. So that process, the transparency of the process, and how we have been able to put the process is not like what others do, where you may go to one market or one place and begin to share money and you don't know who you are giving. The 10,000 is known, the account number is known, they have their own ATM, so there's nothing like I'm paying Mr. B to deliver the money to Mr. C. The money goes to the lady, of course, who is the widow. I know you may want to ask, what are we doing with the men? We believe that the men who are...
We'll get to the men shortly. Yeah. But let's come to the reason why you're here. There's a planned trip, firstly to Abuja and then to Brazil. But I'm asking this question off the back of a joint position of the Nigerian Governors Forum with the launch of Investopedia. I don't know if the Delta State government is buying into this, or your investment drive is specific to the needs of Deltans.
Very, very specific. Let me tell you what we have been doing in the last 2 years and 3 months. Riding on the strength of what happened in the previous administration, our governor promised that he was going to do more to be able to strengthen infrastructure across the 3 senatorial districts. And first he came in and put the map on, placed the map of the state on the table, and then looked at it, the 3 senatorial districts, 10 federal constituencies and 25 local government areas, and as well as 270 wards, and said, okay, we need to start from senatorial districts, move to the federal constituency, then to local government, and then down to the ward, so that as we now distribute these projects, fairness becomes the core point. And so the governor in the last 27 months have been very busy trying to create the enabling environment by ensuring that a whole lot of infrastructure is being put in place. So if you come into Delta State today, a number of our local government have become more like construction site. Why were we doing that? The governor felt that before you begin to ask somebody to come in and invest, you must be able to create accessibility. That if I say, you will see, I have land here where you can afford to have some form of cluster of farms. How do I access that farm? You need to create that road. You also need to be able to move within the states. And that we have done very, very carefully in the last 27 months of his administration. Having done that, a number of individuals are aware of what we are doing. On their own, they have been able to come in to be able to invest. And so we are having some investors coming in, while those who are around with us are also expanding, like Rain Oil is expanding, Seplat is expanding, and a number of other business enterprises are expanding in Delta. But we've heard that if we just leave it for individuals to just know what we are doing, we may not move with the speed that we anticipate. And we also saw the need to bring in some form of renewable energy to be able to power our rural communities, our primary and secondary schools, our clinics, our hospitals, that once we are able to also get them off grid and make sure that these different form of either independent power plants or some form of renewable energy platforms, that we would have been able to also energize our rural communities as part of the issue of creating solvency on the part of our people. That if our state is solvent, thanks to the management drive and the very, very ability of the governor to manage the funds, we have a whole lot of funds. We are not borrowing. In the last 27 months, he has not borrowed a dime. Yet, once we pay contractors, once you raise the certificate, we pay. Once we are giving a job to you, we give you 40% mobilization. Any job, once we have approved that this contract is given and you are the winner, we give you 40% mobilization. Don't tell us that bank is delaying you, because the governor desired that we have speed. Now, having done that, we now felt that the best thing to do is to also reach out to those who can be part of the process of growth in our dear state. And what we are doing in Abuja today is to be able to meet investors on the platform of the Rural Electrification Agency. They are doing very well. They have been able to bring in a whole lot of investors who are into the renewable energy platform, who can afford to come in, build some solar farms that can manage some cluster of other farms or business concerns in different rural communities, so that while we are grappling with what we can be doing at the city center, our rural communities are not going to be left behind. They too can afford to flow with us. We have been able to put in a whole lot of package as to how it can happen. We have tried it on our part and it gave us result. There are a few of our clinics that we have been able to install some form of solar panels, and so medications that require some form of refrigeration are no longer being made to be kept in a place higher than where the temperature is higher than its storage requirement. All those is giving us result, and we felt that if we can deepen it by bringing in investors, it is even going to help a whole lot of our micro and macro business enterprises, so that we grow the informal sector in our state. That is why we are coming to Abuja, and we are quite optimistic that we are going to have some result by the time we are done today. Now, thereafter, we are proceeding to Brazil.
Before you head over to Brazil, I would need to take a quick commercial break. We'll come back. I have a question on the Abuja trip, particularly in regards to rural electrification.
Thank you.
On the program this morning, the Honorable Commissioner for Works Rural and Public Information Officer of Delta State, Commissioner Charles Aniagwu, with us here in the studio. We'll take a quick commercial break. When we return, he will tell us more on the investment drive of Delta. Stay with us. Well, thanks for staying with us on the program. Still in focus is the Delta State's investment drive. And in the studio with me, Honorable Charles Aniagwu, Commissioner for Works, Rural Roads and Public Information, Delta State, has talked about the Abuja investment drive and the ambition to meet with rural electrification stakeholders and attract renewable energy to Delta State to boost sovereignty in the rural areas. Well, Commissioner, before the break, you were about to get into the Brazil trip and also talk about win foreign direct investment.
Delta State has a whole lot of arable land. So we are not just a state that you just talk about oil and gas. Yes, we are very much rich in oil and gas. We are number one in the country. But we also, what makes us strong is actually agriculture. A number of our persons are into farming, but just at the peasant level. We want to be able to take it away from there, and then we have a whole lot of unmanned forest. And we have also reasoned that the reason why you sometimes have this issue of attack of individuals kidnapping people or attacking the farmers is because we have this unmanned forest where no activity is taking place. And so what do? We have been able to examine one of the pilot scheme that was initiated by the last administration, which brought in a company called Northworthy, and we could see what they are doing. A whole lot of wide expanse of land, several thousands of hectares, where they have been able to grow palm trees. And you could see what they, apart from the funds, the money they are making and the number of persons they have engaged by way of employment, those areas are also being secured. And so which meant that it is not going to be possible for anybody to kidnap anybody and go into that particular farm, because there are a whole lot of activities and people moving up and down. When I say, okay, if we can replicate this in a number of other areas in the state, it will not only help us to put money in the hands of our people, not will it also just generate employment for our people, but it will have also helped us to reduce issues of insecurity in our different bushes, our forests. And so what did we think? We now reason that there is a country that is also good in very much in agriculture, and they do a whole lot, and that is Brazil. And when I say, okay, how do we bring in, now that we have created that enabling environment, Delta State, will thank God to our security agencies, is actually, relatively speaking, one of the most peaceful states in the country today. And so we now felt there was a need to have interface with these individuals who are also having a whole lot of effort in the agriculture sector. So you can come in. There's a whole lot of value chain in that sector. Either you come in for the purpose of farming and owning some farm settlements, or you can come by way of management of the produce that will come from this farm, which now speaks to the issue of the value chain. A number of times people grow some of their farm produce, but because of poor storage facility, you see some form of either it gets rotten or it decays along the line, and the farmer is not able to get the benefit of what he or she may have produced from the farm. All those things are part of the package that we're taking to Brazil. But beyond that, we're also rich in a number of other solid minerals like silicon, coal, and the likes, even lignite. And we said, okay, there are also many things that can be done in that particular circle, like the issue of production of ties, taking the advantage of some form of clay that we have in abundance in Delta, that we can also think of how do we invite companies, say, look, we have this, we can give you this, we can meet you halfway. We have also, in the course of time, established certain form of industrial parks. And so, okay, what do we do with our industrial parks? We don't want to bring in just the total government thing where you just, at the end of the day, people will run it aground. We need some form of partnership where we can now have some anchor tenants that will be able to serve as a more like a bridge between the government and these different investors who will come in into that particular settlements. There's one that we have that we established starting from the last administration, where it's called it's in Abogwa, it's an agro-industrial park. We have a whole lot of machines that we have installed there for the purpose of processing rice paddy, and all that. And we say, well, our initial intention is that we'll be able to bring in different persons to come in, bring in their rice, and then we'll do some processing there. But our new thinking is that we should be able to bring in those who are experts in that sector. We can have some form of PPP arrangement, so where you as a private sector person that is vast in that particular field can come in. This is our own equity because we have been able to install these machines, this place we have created. Because the reason why you have industrial parks is that it brings in some form of localization of industries, which gives rooms to issue of security management. If you have 10 industries located in one place, you are able to spend less in securing them. Secondly, you are also able to spend less in the other things facility they need, like water. This particular industrial park is situated by the Ogwashuku Dam. So there is a whole lot of access to water for the purpose of these companies operating. You know that there's hardly any industry that does not require
production.
Yeah, for production. So those are the reasons why we felt that having industrial parks helps us that when a company is coming in, you would have cured the challenge of the land tenure system where individuals may hold on to their family land or to their community land. But the moment you have acquired a place as an industrial park, it is now within the power and in the hands of government to say, okay, we are giving you 1 hectare, 2 hectares, or maybe 1 acre.
In terms of allocation.
Yes, in terms of allocation, without you having to face any community challenge, because it's already a park secured by government. So that is the benefit of industrial parks, in addition to what I mentioned earlier that comes with localization of industries.
Now, I want to find out on the statistics, because we need to also be able to measure the effects of attracting these foreign direct investments. Are there statistics as to where the GDP in terms of contribution from the agri sector in Delta State is at the time, and where you hope to get it to following the outcomes of a productive partnership?
Well, at the moment, I may not be able to give you the figures, but what I know is that over time, there seemed to have been some form of decline. And what led to it is because of the issues of insecurity in our forest, which makes it very unattractive for our farmers, though peasant as it were, to proceed the much they were doing before now. But we have also, in the course of time, working with our different security agencies and some vigilante groups, in the addition to certain communal efforts. Of course, not long ago, the governor brought in traditional rulers, local government chairmen, all the senior stakeholders in the government, as well as the security chiefs, for the purpose of fine-tuning how we can afford to protect our different communities. Today, by the grace of God, is yielding a whole lot of results. We are not there yet, but so much is being done. There are areas where we have also opened up some communities so that these security issues are enhanced, so that people can now proceed to begin to engage meaningfully in this particular trade, which is agriculture. But what we want to do now is to be able to also fully revive it. We have programs where we have youths coming into agriculture. The governor have also made it clear that as from October, so as to give rain for the room for the rain to recede, that we are going to embark on a whole lot of empowerment drive, taking advantage of our 4 different ministries that are into empowerment processes: the Ministry of Youth, the Office of the Chief Job Creation Officer, the Ministry of Women Affairs, and then the Ministry of the Gay Child and Humanitarian Services. These different ministries are going to profile Deltans, largely individuals that will say belong to the brown a stage of our empowerment. The brown stage is those who have been working either as artisans or they are involved in one trade or the other. We bring them in. Is it capital that they need after profiling? We'll be able to provide them some grant for them to be able to take their business to the next level. Is it that they have other land how to do it, but they don't have the money to start? The government will also make that available, but that is after proper profiling, because we have seen in the course of time that when we were doing largely the green is those who you just bring in, you go and train. There are a number of times you provide them, for instance, those who are into tailoring or fashion and design. You provide them the machines, and as you are just getting out of that place, by the gate, they sell it to another person who, of course, has the passion and, of course, has seen the benefit of the trade. So we want to avoid that, so that once we are empowering you, we believe that because of your passion, you will be able to take that starter pack and move on. Of course, it's called starter pack because we may not give you everything that you require, but a whole lot is being put on the table for you to be able to jumpstart your business and give it a new lease of life. The reason why that is being done is that the moment we are able to equip these individuals, both those who are into some form of farming, whether aquaculture or some form of other forms of animal husbandry or crop production, that they would have been able to help boost further our agricultural potentials. But by the time we also bring in these investors who have had a long stay in that particular sector to add to the agricultural value chain, we would have also been able to, stir up a whole lot of productivity and make it more attractive to a number of school leavers. Just imagine if, for instance, the NYC in Nigeria today is being done in such a way that a number of persons who come out from who graduate from these institutions, irrespective of your course, and the government provides you the enabling environment like it's done abroad, either by you having access to tractors, that for this 1 year, you put them in the farm. Not farmers in cutlass and hoe. Farms that once
mechanized farm.
Mechanized. A number of them will not go looking for job. From that NYSC, they will open up their farms. Because like they say, there is money in the bush. If you travel, not long ago, I was in a few of the states in US about 3 weeks ago. I had the privilege of just watching, looking through, not visiting the farm directly. Some very beautiful farms. You see individuals with their everything they need, talking about renewable energy now. You see somebody with the solar, a lot of solar panels. He's just there in the farm, quiet life, producing all sort of wine, grapes and fruits for the purpose of wine production, and he's a big boy by all standards. My brother, if you are able to do that, you will see that there are a whole lot of these are young lads with all the brain they have who are roaming on the street. They will become engaged. Now because if you begin to wait that they let them go and look for job, these guys, if government is able to put in like what we are doing in Delta now, that we believe we jump start a whole lot of employment opportunities. Once that is done, the potentials in the agriculture sector is more than that in any sector you can think of in this country. Because why? We have a whole lot of arable land and we have the population to consume, in addition to the fact that we would have now started producing for export. Take a look at a number of hotels and a number of places where some of these things are consumed. Yet, we are very busy importing them.
I quite agree with you. Our agricultural investment potentials are very large, and hence the Delta State government's choice to prioritize it. But we're also moving into a knowledge economy. I don't know if in your further trips you might choose to look at ways to drag investments into the education sector. And I mean, for instance, the drive to have CBT tests for both our WAEC and JAM, and the performance level across states, which has dragged a lot of concern as to how best to equip our children and students with the knowledge of CBTs to better tackle these exams. Is the Delta State government thinking in line with that?
Well, let me first of all tell you that the education sector in Nigeria is not the one that you need to go and begin to look for investors. The only thing you need is to improve what you have. We have a whole lot of investors in the education sector in this country. A whole lot of, if you are talking about maybe in the 80s and all that, you can say, okay, you needed more hands. But today, from the late 90s up to the present day, we now have more private universities than even government-owned universities.
But Commissioner, the affordability is a question.
No, the issue is that the moment you make some of these things, you have a larger number of it. From the people we have here, we can do that. But you need to improve on the quality of what they are dishing out. We can improve on the quality by way of supervision. To say, okay, you can't do this, you cannot do this, you cannot do this. You must have this before you can maybe have your license. We must be able to look at what are the condition precedent for you to even establish a particular kind of university. You cannot say you are establishing a university and you have Department of Architecture, you have Department of Medicine, you have Department, yet the things you need, the equipment or the facilities that is needed for that particular course to become what it is not available. And that is one of the reasons why you see a whole lot of our engineers, except when they go to the field, the fact that what they need to become certified engineers, practically speaking, is not available in most of the schools. So once you provide that, if anybody says, I am traveling abroad, I want to bring in investors in the education sector to come and, is it to come and build schools or to come and do what?
To set up computer-based test centers.
We need to first of all even deal with even those who are graduating today. How do you get them engaged so that our economy can be reflected? Once these individuals are engaged, some of them are also going to become future investors, not only in the education sector, but across board. But
before we get to the graduates, sir, the secondary school students, particularly with the introduction of computer-based test centers, I know you've agreed that...
but you see what JAMB is doing? Yes. JAMB is doing, forget about the little glitch that they had in the last JAMB exam. The JAMB has introduced a whole lot of innovation when it comes to CBT test. And that is giving us a whole lot of result that the moment you are even ending in less than just some hours, you have your result.
My question was, is the Delta State government supporting public schools in Delta?
We are doing it. It's not just we are doing it, even for our workers, we are doing it. Is it just support? As a government, that's what we are doing. For instance, our teachers, their promotion exam and training is through CBT. We already have a CBT hub in Delta, where you understand that it was introduced by the previous administration and is being advanced by this administration. What we are doing is that because we have seen the need to reduce the issues of cheating, to also make our teachers and our people who are manning our institutions to become much more ICT oriented, so that you don't just come and you see a computer and you begin to look at it as if it's one kind of a mixture. So all those things are being done. But at the moment, we have seen that one of the greatest challenge that we have as a country and as a people is how to navigate towards productivity. And for you to navigate towards productivity, you must have productive hands. And if you have productive hands, you must also have productive field. So what we are doing in data is to create the productive field because we already have the productive hands. Data is largely a youthful, has a very youthful population of up to about 65% of our quite about 6 million population. So which means the hand to get engaged in this whole thing are right there. Good enough, we are also educationally advantaged. And so we are now bringing in people so that the reason why it became attractive for individuals to go into what you now call the Yahoo is because idle mind, they say, is the devil's workshop. And these are very, very bright minds. Most Nigerians today, the young ones, are so sharp that if you don't do something, they will use their sharpness in another direction. So you must be able to engage that sharpness by providing the opportunities for them to ventilate what God has given to them. If you don't, like they say, if Mama Nkechi fails to provide food for Nkechi, Nkechi will go to Mama Adora's house to eat the food. Because that's the way it is. Because when hunger comes, you must look for a way to satisfy that hunger. So that knowledge that our people have, if you don't fill in that gap, they will find one way to fill it. And unfortunately, a number of them are feeling it wrongly.
Well, in conclusion, I also commend the Delta State students. I see that they made the state proud of the 2025 World Debate Competition.
Not just the state, Nigeria. We won the World Debate, and you know what? These are students from public schools. That tells you the strength of our public schools in Delta. They won in Nigeria. They won all the states in the country in that debate. They traveled to Qatar. They were people from America, from United Kingdom, Germany, and Canada. All of them came for that particular debate. These young lads from Delta won, not because there was any data in the board of those who were testing them, but because of the way we are handling our public schools today. And we must commend the teachers. The governor also motivated them before they left, And we're quite happy that they made us proud. And you saw what the governor did when they came back. Say each of those students is now 20 million naira richer. And so it's part of what's happening in the new Delta. And we are quite comfortable and happy about the governor that we have today. And we are not talking that much because we believe that we need to do more. And that's what we are doing. And maybe by the time we were done, we would have behaved like India and China in those days, where they close their economy. And by the time they open to the world, everybody will say, how come? So by the time Oborowori is done, I'm quite comfortable that the number of Nigerians will begin to wonder how come. Go and look at the number of persons that travel to Delta today.
All right.
Everybody navigates towards that direction because the investment opportunities are in abundance and the enabling environment is sure.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Commissioner Sir, for your time on the program. I'd allow you, and I'm wishing you a beautiful engagement across Abuja and Brazil.
Thank you. And I must also appreciate you, and through you to your management. I am very comfortable and happy with what the ADBN is doing. And so we are now beginning to have more choices in the broadcast world. And that tells you what the private sector can do once they are given opportunity. So congratulations.